Hello, my name is Davis from Birmingham Business TV, and today I am going to be speaking to
Jim Shirley.
Jim Shirley of Funding Hero. You can see it on his the shirt already. Absolutely. Jim, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for making out the time. You have done an incredible amount of work in the West Midlands over the last year or 2 years thereabout that you've been around. We've heard of the Funding Hero Accelerator. I know of the Funding Hero platform, which we're going to talk about in a bit. But you've also recently launched a book.
Yep.
What is your inspiration? Why did you decide to write that book? Tell us the title and why did you decide to write the book?
Yeah. So the book's called the Startup Fundraising MBA, and it's all based around the 6 pillars of fundraising. So inspiration for it was I went to work in a tech venture studio a few years ago, and I saw how hard it was for startup founders to raise those kind of first few rounds, the pre-seed and seed funding. When you haven't got an idea or you're trying to get off the ground, haven't got any revenue yet, it's really hard to raise investment. And I couldn't believe just how tough it was for startup founders where to start to raise investment. They didn't know what type of investors to approach, how to create a financial strategy, how to get the materials straight. And it was very fragmented information. They search on YouTube for information or Google, and it's very conflicting. So I wanted to create a really structured end-to-end process, which is why we created the 6 pillars of fundraising, basically.
Oh, fantastic. And thank you very much for the work that has gone into the book. So I've got my copy right here, right? My signed copy, ladies and gentlemen. While flipping through the book, I found quite a number of insightful things in there. Even though I work in access to finance myself, there were quite a number of things in there that I learned that I thought was really, really cool. In chapter 2 of the book, you talk about fundraising strategy. For entrepreneurs that are watching this, what is a fundraising strategy and how does one go about putting one together?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is that every single founder, every business is different. So one of the common issues is that kind of founders run out there straight away, and the first kind of money they may see is like venture capital money. But the truth is that venture capital money is only for a very small percentage of businesses that can be really hyper growth. So the context around a fundraising strategy is to think about what kind of founder of business are you and what journey should you go on. So a lot of founders should probably start off bootstrapping the business, start small, grow that business, trying to find some real traction, understand where you sit in the market. Then if you have some success, then maybe raise some investment. So then the next type of strategy would be more around invest to grow. So actually you might start off and raise a small amount of capital. So maybe 50, 100, 200,000 pounds, get to a certain stage by achieving some milestones and then go and raise money again. Or the third kind of strategy could be it's just a pure burn thing. So you're going to go, just raise £1 million. You've got a real long time to get to market. It could be a huge market you're trying to capture. So you want to go on a really high growth journey and chase that kind of much more riskier kind of fundraising piece. So when you understand your financial strategy, that determines the kind of money you need to go after.
Fantastic. And I thought that was very insightful when I read that part of the book as well. The next question I've got for you is around something called the fundraising budget.
Yeah.
When I read that, I was like, wait a minute, we have to think about a budget for fundraising as well. What is the fundraising budget? Because I think that this is one that almost no entrepreneur thinks about when they're raising funds. Tell us about what a fundraising budget is.
Yeah, so basically it's always a massive shock, unfortunately, when founders go out to raise funding because there's actually a big cost involved in raising money. And it's that whole chicken and egg, you kind of need some money to raise some money. So how do you get going? So typically a fundraise will cost about 5 to 15% of a round, which is a huge amount of cash. So you have to figure out, things like where are you going to spend that money? So do you need to get a really good pitch deck created? What's the legal structure to get it put in place? Do you need to go and kind of pitch in front of angel groups, which much charge an upfront fee? You might need to go and hire a fractional CFO or a finance director to help get your numbers in order. All these different costs that add up really quickly. These kind of budget pieces have to feed back into the fundraising strategy we just spoke about, because you have to think about from a timeline point of view, how are you going to get the money, first of all, to kind of get some of this budget together to get yourself in a stage where you can go out and raise. And then, how long can you actually last before the money comes in as well? So it's all intertwined, and it's that kind of horrible chicken and egg to get yourself off the ground.
It is interesting because it's one of the major things that I've seen in my journey working with different businesses in order to help them raise capital. Sometimes a business raises £100,000 in capital, but only find out that only £85,000 actually land in their bank account because of fees and all sort of things. And I think that fundraising budget is one that a lot of people need to pay attention to. It's not just about, putting some fancy document together. If you're really going to put it together in such a way that people are going to appreciate it and investors are going to listen to you, you're better off getting professionals to do it. You're going to have fees and things of that nature. So when I read that in the book, I was just like, wow. Even in my journey as an access to finance advisor to businesses, I never ever talk to them about fundraising budget, but it's a practical thing. It's something that people need to know about, and I'm really, really glad that insight is contained in the book as well. My next question for you is one of the biggest questions that entrepreneurs have when they're raising capital. How do I value my business?
Wow.
When I'm asking for money, what is the equity that I give to them in exchange? What is the valuation? So how does a business go about valuing the business? I mean, I'm a startup founder. I've got this nice fancy product I've built. I want to raise capital. How do I value my company?
Yeah, well, where to start? I mean, I think there's it's definitely a bit of an art and a little bit of science mixed together. For early stage businesses, it's pretty much impossible, and ultimately the market decides. So there's lots of different models that have kind of been created in the past, like kind of Berkus and scorecard method, and they basically have a few different areas which you would kind of try to allocate a value against, like how strong's the team, how good's the idea, how defensible is it. But those are all very, very subjective and stuff, and they can help to kind of build up towards a number, so you can try and justify it. But it's still going to come down to, if you're in a negotiation with an investor, it's kind of got to work both sides. So you'll think about, what market you're in, how quickly you're growing, how big is the opportunity of the market you're in, what have you done to date, to kind of prove where your business is, where are the valuations in your sector, what competitors have kind of raised money at certain amounts. You have to take all these different things into consideration, do plenty of research, so you've got something to back it up with, and then just talk to investors really and kind of get a feel for it, because you can't afford to put a stake in the ground too quickly if that valuation is far too high. And one of the biggest issues you often see is that people go in with a very high valuation and it just kind of puts investors off too quickly. So both sides need to feel like they kind of win the deal a little bit, and you have to think about how many rounds of funding are you going to raise on your journey. So I always try to reverse engineer. If I think I've got a 5-year journey, how many types of and sizes of rounds will I need, and try and plan our cap table backwards, so we've got a level of equity we feel comfortable selling at each stage. Because the worst thing that can happen is you spend 5 to 7 years growing a business, get to that magic exit point thinking, right, I've got my island or my yacht or my fast car coming in, and then suddenly you're left with a few percentage left and you've got not a lot to show for it. So valuation isn't just a simple case of, I value my company at this amount today. You want to try and consider, also the longer term, and think about future rounds as well, so that you only give away a certain amount at each stage. So you've always got some skin in the game at the end.
I think that is truly remarkable, particularly the point that you raised around, reverse engineering your cap table, thinking years ahead and then trying to walk back into today's valuation. I think that for every founder or entrepreneur that is watching this, one of the things that is most essential is that you understand that you need the investors' capital to get to whatever magic number you think you're going to get to. Without their capital, you most likely are not going to get there, or at least not get there within the time frame that you're expecting to get there. And for investors as well, they want to participate in an opportunity, and even when the founder is not all there in terms of maybe cash flow and things of that nature, there's so many other points that value can be allocated against, which is one of the other things that I picked out from the response you just gave. I'll ask you one more question with regards to the content of the book. When I read chapters 9 and 10, 9 was focused on what is called the financial model. 10 was focused on commercial model. And I went to myself, what's the difference between financial model and commercial model? Do you mind clarifying that for us?
Yeah, so basically financial model is like, your profit and loss account. So you're going to tell a story to an investor around how much turnover you'll make, hopefully how much money you'll make and how much profit you'll make, and also kind of how much cash you need on that journey. So you'll typically paint a picture over 5 years and kind of give them a feel for how fast you expect to grow and to what kind of size. And that kind of story that comes from financial model very much dictates the type of investors you're going to go for. So if you aspire to grow a business to say £5 million in 5 years, then that might be more for angels. If you aspire to grow a business to £100 million, that's more like a venture capital backed business. So that financial model is really key in kind of determining the fundraising strategy we spoke about previously. And then the commercial model is basically, it's the way you make money. So what are your different methods to bring money into the business? So, do you sell direct to consumers? Do you sell direct to businesses? How many products have you got? How do you upsell that product to customers? What's the average lifespan of a customer? And how do you activate and go to market? So, have you got a freemium model first to kind of entice users in and then sell gradually? So you have to really be able to distinguish between exactly how you make money, because that's what investors really need to know. Having a pretty profit and loss account that shows fantastic numbers is brilliant, but if you can't articulate clearly how your commercials are going to work, why a customer's going to be so compelled to buy from you and stuff, and that you've also got potential other revenue streams as you grow and kind of scale into, these are the two sides of the coin really you've got to articulate clearly to investors.
Fantastic. I think that it is very insightful, and the book is filled with insights. Again, it's called The Startup. Here's my copy, by the way. It's called the Startup Fundraising MBA, and like an MBA program, it's got a lot covered in there. I'm going to switch gears very quickly because I wanted to answer some quick fire questions for people that might be watching this, because I think that there's some valuable nuggets of value that comes from you, given your experience in the fundraising world as a CFO, previously exited businesses. So are you ready for the quick fire questions?
Let's do it.
Fantastic. What is your biggest advice for anyone who wants to start a business?
Follow your own path. So don't be persuaded by thinking you've got to go and create a £100 million business. Build a business that you feel comfortable building.
Fantastic. Now, what is your biggest advice for anyone looking to raise equity funding?
Do not start too late. Most founders will start at least 6 months too late when they need the money. You have to be very, very prepared. You have to warm your network up. You have to kind of get all your documentation and put in place, and then eventually funding will drop. But you have to be prepared and don't start too late.
What is your biggest advice for an entrepreneur looking for a co-founder?
Don't jump into bed with them too quickly. It's definitely a marriage in the same way as with investors. So you might find someone today that you think is fantastic, but it's a very big roller coaster of emotion, up and down. And somebody that's right for you now might not be right for you in the next few years. So think about how you structure your agreement, and think about vesting of shares rather than kind of giving equity to someone from day one, because that can be one of the biggest killers of dilution for you as a founder, or having the wrong co-founder and giving too much equity too soon.
Organic growth versus fundraising?
I would always suggest organic growth first, because that proves that you can sell. It proves a lot to investors that you can execute, and it's much easier to raise investment then to actually use that to keep on doing what you're doing rather than actually prove something to get off the ground.
And what's your most important tip for any small business owner when it comes to financial management?
Just know your numbers. Too many people are scared of numbers and they don't understand the financials, and I fully appreciate, they can be scary. But you cannot outsource responsibility for your numbers to a bookkeeper and accountant. You have to own them. They might prepare them, but you need to understand them, own them, and understand exactly all the levers that impact them.
To the entrepreneur out there that is frustrated with the journey of raising capital, what word of advice have you got for them?
Patience and persistence. So you will definitely get, 100, 200 no's on that journey, and don't think about no's as rejection. Find them as examples to kind of take valuable feedback, improve how you pitch and present, and then make you stronger next time you go and pitch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jim. Now, before we go, I know that Funding Hero, you've got the platform, you've got the accelerator, and now you've got the book. Who's the book for who's the platform for, and who should come on the accelerator?
Good question. So the book is for founders who are either idea stage or going up towards Series A. So that's fundraisers from friends and family rounds all the way up to about £3 million raise plus. Getting those first 2 to 3 fundraisers away is hypercritical. It's like one of the most important skills you'll have for your entrepreneurial career. So if you can learn to fundraise effectively, then hopefully you can exit effectively as well. So that's who the book's for. The platform then builds on the book. So the content there is also in the platform in a very nice digital, easy to use format. We've also got some very valuable tools in there as well. So the platform is there for founders to use, but also for incubators and accelerators. We want to give the platform to the ecosystem to help raise the bar in general on investment readiness. We struggle broadly overall to kind of teach the level of depth for investment readiness in the country. So I was really keen to provide that kind of CFO level support, but in an affordable way, so kind of people can access it most easily. And then the accelerator, finally, it was something very close to my heart really about how can we kind of change the stats in the West Midlands. As on Tuesday, Andrew Street was saying, our conversion rate from startup to scale up isn't good enough. It's one of the worst in the country. So I wanted the accelerator to really help, those early stage businesses have got some good traction. They've been, stalled and stuttered, for a few years trying to find money. They really kind of just need something to kind of give them that break. So our accelerator is that way to kind of give early stage founders with traction some CFO support to really help them figure out what's the right amount to raise, what's the right fundraising journey for them, and then also wrap around some experts as well that can help them on that journey. And we had 2 fantastic case studies so far from our first program where 2 female founders who've created some phenomenal businesses and can be huge regional successes. They came in looking for an amount of money, and across 12 weeks, we completely reshaped that, and they're going to raise at least 3 to 4 times more than they thought they needed, but also now understand what scaling up's about, and what money to kind of actually go after as well. So immensely proud of the 2 of them. They're incredible female founders who should be back in as a region, and hopefully some more successes come out the back of it.
Fantastic. It's been a great conversation with you, Jim. But very quickly before we go, tell us how to find the book and how to find you.
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon now. So that's the Startup Fundraising MBA. And to find me, go to fundinghero.co.uk, and you can access our platform. You can access Pillar 1 for free completely. So please go on there, check it out, and love to hear your feedback.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jim.
Wonderful. Thanks, Davies.
Awesome.